welcome to another episode of the Color in Cannabis podcast. Today's episode, we have Evelyn LaChapelle. Super excited to have you here.
Super excited to be here.
This is really exciting for me. Most of our guests so far, I've really kind of known them outside of cannabis or before we've done this. But with you, I found out about you kind of from Cannabis Press and kind of seeing you on a lot of other podcasts in addition to working with you with the Equity Trade Network. So very honored to have you here today.
Super excited. This is dope.
Excellent. So I guess let's just start with your story. How many people kind of know of you and know of your situation?
Yes. So story, journey, I haven't figured out what I want to call it yet. Because story sounds to me like it has an ending and I haven't got to the end yet. But my journey into this space is through my 87 months in prison. Boom, 87 months for depositing cannabis profits into my bank account. What so many people are doing now. It's traded on the global stock exchange. It was deemed essential during a global pandemic. And it's legal in more states than not. But so many people are still sitting in prison. And for 87 months, I was one of them.
That's crazy, the idea of going to prison for banking, basic banking. So how did you actually get into cannabis, get into the space to even be depositing money?
How did I get there? I met a man.
Often the beginning of a bad story.
Often the beginning of a really bad story. I met a man. But I don't blame that man because I was 23 at the time. I was in college, my third year at Loyola Marymount, studying business and entrepreneurship. And I was in a relationship, not that man, but I was in another toxic relationship, and I was expecting my daughter. And so when I met a man, my life was already kind of like halfway good and halfway in shambles. And he was already in the process, or he was already running an operation of shipping cannabis from California to North Carolina and had been doing that. And this is all information that I learned after the indictment. So meeting him, there wasn't like, oh, this is what I do, sort of.
Resumes in the traditional market?
There was no resume. He was just a really nice guy that was making my life a little easier while I was dealing with the other stuff. And so maybe 2 or 3 months into that friendship, he's like, hey, I've got money coming back and I'm using Western Union. I'm paying Western Union $200. That could be money for you. We just put it in the account. Why not? My experience with the bank at that point was, I was a trust fund kid. So my grandfather had already set up like recurring deposits into my bank account. So larger deposits was not something that was an alert for me. And then I had been working at Citibank for maybe like a year in Beverly Hills. So a $5,000 deposit is like a reoccurring, it's not a red flag. And so someone putting money in your bank just did not ring any red flags for me. I did that literally just for the duration of my pregnancy for 9 months. At the end of the 9 months, decided that I would turn my baby daddy into a housewife. That didn't work. The phrase, can't turn her into a housewife.
Yes.
Bless his heart. But, and so I moved on and I never looked back. Me and Corvain, the person who was running the cannabis, lost contact, and we didn't see each other again until we were sitting in court going to trial 4 years later.
Jesus. So you weren't actively like working in the industry when all this happened. You're just kind of helping someone out to help make some ends meet. Yeah. And then a couple of years later, it comes back to bite you in the butt.
Bite me. I had just moved back to the Bay. So all of this is happening in LA. So I had just moved back to the Bay with my daughter, who was like 3 at the time, moved back to my mom's in San Lorenzo and went outside to smoke a joint. And one of the neighbors called the police, suspicious activity. Bastards. And so till this day, when I go over her house, I don't care if it's cold outside. I roll the windows down. I blast the music. Like somebody's going to pay for calling the police that night.
Absolutely.
And there was a warrant out for my arrest. And like, that's how it slapped me in the face. Like I had no idea. No letters had come in the mail. No one had knocked on my door. No one had ever come looking for me. Just this random stop. And there was a warrant out, a federal warrant out for my arrest.
Jeez, that must have been terrifying.
Yeah, that was like, and I had just smoked. So talk about killing your high, right? Like high gone. And he's putting me in handcuffs, and it's like 11 o'clock at night. I just stepped outside, and I just started screaming like, Mom, you know. She comes running down the stairs, and the only thing he can tell me is it's a warrant from ICE. And I'm like, ICE, you know? So now we're like, ICE, I was born down the street telling her, we're like, what are you talking about? I'm not but they couldn't tell me anything. And I sat in jail in downtown Oakland and then Santa Rita for about 4 or 5 days before an arraignment, before I even had an idea of what was going on. And I'm in my LMU hoodie, you know, when I get to court, and the arraignment just starts listing off all these charges and the sentencing guidelines. So it was like, you're being charged with money laundering, 20-year maximum. You're being charged with distributing with the intent to sell over 100 kilos. I think it was like 30 years, like all these like crazy ass numbers. And that is the beginning of my transition into the cannabis space.
Yeah. So you said you're kind of a trust fund kid before that.
Yeah.
So had you had any experience with the law, like getting handcuffs, jail, anything like that?
None. That was my first time in handcuffs.
Okay, 'cause I've always wondered about this because I've seen you around in cannabis doing a lot of stuff, doing a lot of interviews, and I have friends that go to jail and they don't look like you.
Right.
And I'm wondering, like, I keep thinking, like, how the hell was she in jail? Maybe she had some previous jail experience to kind of prepare her for this. What was it like to go from being college, trust fund, all that stuff to being locked up and in that culture?
That is a question I haven't answered in therapy yet. So I don't have an answer. No, because it was devastating. And I won't say that I have thick skin, but I had to quickly figure out how to like toughen up. And so I was always the oddball in jail. Like it's pretty obvious that I didn't belong there. And my mind had to adapt quicker than it would have normally adapted, right? And so I had grew up not like super privileged, but never wanting. Private school, Catholic school, college was paid for. The stipulations was if I, maintained my grades in college, my car was paid for, rent was paid for. Like the rules was you're not even supposed to work.
Nice.
So I'm 18. I've got a brand new car. I moved to LA. I'm going to college, and all expenses are paid from my late grandfather. So even going to jail now, looking back at like what my why is, like proving myself now is really for my grandfather, like to make sure that all that work that he put into my future doesn't go to waste. But to answer that question, going into the jail, like when I was found guilty and they put me in handcuffs and I'm going to jail for real this time, I looked at the marshals and I'm like, but is it safe? Like I'm tried in North Carolina. So I'm on the other side of the country. Yeah. I don't have anybody to call. I don't have no cousins in here. At least in Santa Rita, I had an auntie that was a sheriff. I had some cousins that had been in and out, but I'm in North Carolina. So the only thing I can ask a marshal is like, is it safe? And he told me yes. And that still did not bring any comfort because for like the next 2 hours, I just screamed. I mean, like melt down. Like, what do you mean I'm not going to pick my daughter up from daycare today? Like, I had every intention of getting home to my kid. I went to trial thinking like, this is weed. There's no way that you guys are finna do this to me. But I am a trust fund kid. I do have a resume. I do have an education. I'm not married anymore, but like I'm checking off like all this white picket fence shit that they just did not care about. So the transition was crazy.
Jeez. This question I probably wouldn't normally ask on a
Please
podcast.
ask.
Did you have to fight?
I didn't have to fight. I had a strategy.
Okay.
find the stud, be the friend.
Smart choice.
I didn't have to fight. There was a couple verbal arguments, but I have a very soft demeanor, very God-fearing, and so I was protected the whole way through.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. How did your family react to all this?
Devastated. I'm the youngest. I'm the one that they invested in. Devastated. Like, I'm still picking up the pieces of like that devastation. And then jumped into the industry, right? And they're like, what?
So how long were you sentenced for? And then did you do the whole time? It was 87 months, the full sentence? Did you get out early? What was that?
The crazy part is the feds do this thing where I go to trial, you're guilty, they sit you in jail, and now they send probation to come do a pre-sentencing interview. And in that interview, they're trying to find out if you're an upstanding citizen or not. At least that's what I thought. So I checked down the list. I'm this, I'm that, I'm that. Luckily, I told them that I smoke weed because that was a saving grace later. But they take that information and then they compare that to the sentencing guidelines, and then the probation makes a recommendation to what the judge should sentence you to. The recommendation came back at 24 years.
Whoa.
And I'm sitting in a Bible study in the jailhouse when they deliver the packet to me. And it's in months. I don't even know 24 times 12. I don't know. But I had to get a pencil out and do the math, and it lands at 24. And I just close the packet back up. And I'm like, I can't even deal with this right now. Like, I think at this point I had already been sitting in the county jail for 8 or 9 months.
Jesus.
So once I get that, I'm really fighting a 24-year sentence. We had paid for an attorney the first time around. I had cashed out $35,000 for this attorney, and he disappeared after the guilty verdict because I still owed him $3,000. So now my mom has to dig back in her pockets, and she hires a sentencing attorney for $15,000, and he's able to. He hooks me up to a lie detector. He finds all these loopholes, and presents it to the DA, and the DA is like, okay, fine, we'll take it down to 11 years. And I was like, nope. And then it was okay, 9 years, nope. And then he finally gets to 8. And for me, that was do I come home when my daughter is 24 or do I come home when she's 10? Because she had just turned 4, you know? And so we go to court, ready to accept the 8-year sentence. But that means that I have to waive my rights to an appeal. So it was once you take this, you're done. Over. Your only other option is to take the 24 and then go fight for an appeal while you're sitting on the 24 years. So I took the 8, no rights to an appeal. The judge gave me 10 months off of that. So I ended up with 87 months, which was 7 years and 3 months. You get a year off for completing the drug program because if you smoke weed, you're addicted to weed. And so, here we are in the drug program with a real drug problem. And so you get a year off for that. And then because I didn't get into any altercations, you get good time, 15% off. So I end up serving a total of 5 years.
Okay.
And 3 years probation.
But still, that's crazy. From trust fund, college to 5 years in the feds for some basic banking.
Yeah. And it doesn't stop. I just had bank accounts closed 2 weeks ago.
Just because
I'm a felon.
Jesus.
So it doesn't stop. The punishment doesn't go away.
I definitely want to, catch up to where you're at now, but I'm also curious about where you grew up and all of that because we kind of ran past that. So where were you born and raised and what was that like?
Born and raised in Oakland. I always sort of attribute that upbringing to my, how naive I was about depositing cannabis funds into the bank because it's a lot of weed here, and I had been consuming probably since I was 16 or 17. I had never seen anybody really get hemmed up for weed. It was in abundance. You know what I'm saying? So
it's such a permissive environment out here, and the industry is kind of bubbling up out here, so I can see that being real shocking.
It never crossed my mind that, he's selling weed, he's a dope boy. It wasn't real dope to me.
Yeah.
And so I grew up in Oakland. I spent some time in the Hayward Unified School District, and then I finished high school at St. Elizabeth, right at the Fruitvale.
Yeah.
So I grew up in like Little Mexico.
Yeah, absolutely.
Up on 35th. And then as soon as I was at graduation, I moved to LA, and I lived in LA for 9 years.
Okay. So when you did get out, how did you transition back into the real world and then into cannabis?
So when I got out, I had no intention of I'm not even smoking. I don't want to see it. I don't want to touch it. Mm-hmm. I hadn't smoked in 5 years, so I don't have like that inkling to get into it. And my career was in sales and catering. Mm-hmm. And prior to being locked up, I was at the Oakland Marriott Convention Center. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I'm just going to get back to my regular life, mind my own business, and we're climbing up this ladder again. So I started as a sales and catering coordinator at the Omni in San Francisco. Like, I was released February the 1st. I think I applied for the job like immediately. I think I started working by March.
Wow.
Yeah, I was for sure working for my birthday, which is March 8th. So I was working within a couple of weeks at the Omni, on the job for 2 months, minding my own business, and a coworker Googled my name. And at the time, the only article that was there was published by ICE.
I can only imagine how they frame it. Yeah.
Oh my God, she's moving tons.
Drug lord.
My co-defendant Natalia, who's about as big as me, they've got her in the article driving 18-wheelers worth of weed. So they called me into the office and was like, I'm gonna need you to pack your things and leave. And so I had no intention to getting into this space. This space just welcomed me with open arms, and it's been the only space that I've been able to thrive in. It's like this or waitressing.
Yeah. So when you did get into the biz, did you immediately start with the product line? Did you start with the clothes? Like, what was your entree into the cannabis business when that happened?
No, the coolest part was I got on with a nonprofit organization that is focused on releasing cannabis inmates. Mm-hmm. And they did an event here in San Francisco, which was crazy because it was Big Rock, I think, investors, smaller size conference. I was at the Mixer, and they asked me to come speak. And it was like my first time being at a cannabis event, and it's all white guys in suits. Yeah. Like, and mind you, I'm fresh out of the prison. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And I can't smoke because I'm on probation. But like, there's like passing the joint. And I get up there, I speak. I got 12 minutes to share my story. And in the audience was the CEO and COO of Vertosa Infusions down in Oakland.
Yeah, they make amazing products. I'm about to have some Uncle Arnie's this afternoon.
They make amazing products. And as soon as I got off the stage, there was like, we've got a job for you. We have to hire you. What do you do? And I was like, I do events, So my first job in the space was community engagement manager for Vertosa up until the pandemic. And that was the coolest shit for me. Because now, like, my first staff meeting, we're talking about moving pounds and tons, like it wasn't 17 units.
Yeah, exactly.
It was a lot.
Yeah, big time.
It was big time. And so that was that I've been here ever since. That was 2019.
Excellent. And I know we've worn numerous hats since then. So
yes.
Tell me about some of the brands you've launched or things you've done since then.
So sales, community engagement manager with Vertosa, leading like their trade shows and their mixers, etc. And then COVID comes, everything goes digital. And so then I'm shifting to their virtual presence, so their webinars. And then I picked up a hat at Last Prisoner Project as their community engagement. And then that transitioned into running their reentry services. You
want to talk a little bit about the Last Prisoner Project?
Not really.
Fair enough.
Bless their hearts. Yeah.
That's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. So I spent like 2 years there, recently parted ways in May of this year. So I learned a lot. And then
a lot of interesting people there, very different backgrounds.
Very different. It's very different.
Not a lot of people necessarily locked up, but yes, it's a very interesting program. Yeah.
Listen. Yeah. And I will say this is that my heart is for the people that are in the prison. And there is a lot of work that needs to be done in policy and legislation, which is great, and it needs to be done. But if we're not amplifying the voices of the people, my problem was I could get up and I could speak and I could share my story, and you could raise $1 million, and then I could go home and not have no groceries.
Yeah.
And so how do I then create a space for people to directly support me and my child? And then now how do I help other formerly incarcerated create this sort of same lane?
Absolutely.
And then that's where, so then I jumped into my own nonprofit, Ladies Loving and Living. Like, what I wanted to create there, like, how do I create it here? That's more constituent facing.
So tell us more about Ladies Loving and Living.
Ladies Loving and Living
Yes.
is the opposite of ladies rioting and dying,
Yes.
right? Like that story.
Can you
that
say
started,
that again? I mean, please.
It's the opposite of rioting and dying.
Yeah.
We are not going to ride and die anymore. I am calling all the women to love and live.
Yes.
It's a mind shift. It's a mindset of just like, we all say that we'll die for our kids, but how many of us are focused on living for our kids?
Absolutely.
And that comes in so many different, like, are you healthy? Are you staying out of trouble? Like, are you still taking penitentiary chances? Because it's not worth it.
Yes.
And so Ladies Loving and Living has a 3-pronged program. And so when you first come home, you're greeted with a welcome home kit, and not just like some deodorant and soap, right? Like a blow dryer, a flat iron, gift cards to Macy's and Target, so that you can like restore some of the dignity. There's nothing worse, honestly. Like, prison is bad. What really struck a chord with me was being treated so lowly, knowing in the streets, like, y'all really can't see me in real life, you know? And so that came down to like that nasty uniform that you have us in. We can't comb our hair. Like, we're cutting our hair with toenail clippers. Where men are getting full blown clippers, like, prison's just not built to house women. It never was. And so the first thing you want to do when you come home is sort of like restore yourself. So the bag at like cost is like $500. So you're getting like some good stuff. And then because I learned that the job market is not favorable to people who are past convicts. It wasn't favorable to me. And I had an education, a resume, and it did not do anything for me. And so the second program is the Lady Entrepreneurs, where we will provide, where we provide grants for the women to start their micro businesses. Right now, it's just vending machines. So if you can find placement for a vending machine, we'll provide the money for the vending machine. And it's not $1 million business, but it teaches you basic business skills, inventory, revenue versus profit. Like, it's not all yours to take home. And we're targeting nightclubs in Oakland for several reasons, but the nightclubs have just historically been left out of the philanthropy. So you guys take a lot from the community. Here's a way to give back. And then the third part of the program is wellness. I've been home for 5 years, and I'm just sort of getting to the process of like processing prison. And it's really like recovery. It's like a recovery process. Absolutely. You've got to grieve everything that you lost. You've got to like overcome 1,000 obstacles. And when you come home, you don't have time. Like, I don't have time to like meditate. Like, I have to pay these bills, you know, like, and my daughter's in private school, so I really don't have time, you know, like, so there's a three programs at Ladies Loving and Living, and that did come from what I learned at Last Prison Project. So excellent. You know.
So how many folks have you guys served?
Right, we've got 3 so far. I was super grateful this past week. I got connected with CORE reentry services from the Alameda Probation.
Yes, yeah.
And so they have a new reentry building down by the airport, and they just did a Christmas event, and they purchased $500 worth of the We Ladies products. Nice. Because they're supporting formerly incarcerated entrepreneurs, and they gave them as gifts to their clients. But bigger than that was, now I have a direct pipeline, because prior to this, it's like, I'm reaching out to the halfway houses. Do you have any women? And so now she's like, here, you have a whole space. You can come teach your classes.
Oh, excellent.
And so that just happened last week. So we'll tap in again. Yeah.
And definitely So I guess off the podcast, I want to plug you into a couple other programs that do a lot of reentry work. And I know some folks who would love to talk to you about that. I just left a board meeting a couple of weeks ago with Private Industry Council. And so that's not for all this, but there's lots of folks who would love to talk to you about that, because there's a lot of, as cannabis is legal, and there's a lot of people who are dealing with reentry, dealing with the fact that this legal space for people to work in. A lot of these people have prior experience in this space, and so connecting them. So I know they'd love to talk to you about that.
And the women are normally ignored in reentry services. Like even when you are released from the feds, you have to go to a halfway house. Martha Stewart had to go to a halfway house. Like, it doesn't matter. But when I get to the halfway house in Oakland, it's 30 men to like 4 or 5 women.
It's not comfortable.
It's not safe. Yeah. Like, and then I tried my like same tactic, right? Like, okay, meet one person and coast. Like, that's how I like get my safety. Like, I just got to have one person on the team that I know is going to ride for me. Turns out he was a little crazy. And so he ends up like trying to bust down the door to get to me. Like, it's a whole situation.
That's crazy that they don't separate you guys, because obviously that's a physical safety issue for the women in that space.
These men have been in prison for years.
Yeah. Trapped in a house with women.
Trapped in a house with women and you can't get none. Like,
scary, terrifying.
That's crazy. You know? Yeah. So hopefully filling a void for the women coming home. Statistics say that there's over 900,000 women in this country in some form of custody.
Yeah, my mom has done some work in the prisons, and she was giving me some statistics about the percentage of women who are in there because of some involvement with the man.
It's always
like, not actually the crime that they committed. It was them just ride or die. Just, I'm going to hold my man down while he's out here doing whatever the hell he's going to do. You sit down for him, and that is a terrible story that a lot of women go through.
And it's not just us. Like, I was in a camp, so you would think that the prison was full of black women. We were always the minority in the camps. It's all white collar, middle-aged white women. And it's like, my husband didn't file his taxes, or my husband lied on some government contracts. And I'm like, and Granny is sitting in here, Miss Annie Mae, you know, like my bunkie was Wendy. She was a 7-day Adventist Mormon, you know, like.
That's crazy.
It's crazy.
Like, that's a whole separate
That's a whole nother
yeah,
we won't go down that rabbit hole, but for sure the prison is filled with women who by association are sitting down.
That's terrible. So after you started Ladies Loving Themselves?
Ladies Loving and Living.
Ladies Loving and Living.
Yes.
So what were some of the other projects you started after that?
So actually what came before that was the Weed Lady. Mm-hmm. It started off as 87, which represents the 87 months that I spent in prison. And then the Weed Lady grew from that. And now it's the #1 gift shop for the Weed Lady in your life. And so that was like my baby, my project. I love it. I love creating a space for the women in cannabis. Mm-hmm. What I stepped back and figured out was my life was not represented in this industry. And by my life, I mean, like, I listen to like raunchy ass rap music, you know, like I'm still saved and sanctified, but I'm from the town, right? And so I still like one of my favorite pastimes is to pop bottles in the club. And so what does that look like in the cannabis space? And if you're a woman in walking in, you might find something that speaks to your wellness, like, oh, you want to do some yoga, you want to stretch, you want to relax, oh, you're a mother with anxiety. There may be a lane for you, but what's your lane if you are spending $500 on a lace front, $400 on some nails? That's a lane. Like, black women spend more. We are consumers.
Absolutely. Good
or bad, whatever you want to call it. Like, we are consumers, and we're comfortable with this plant because it's been in the culture. It's been in the house.
Absolutely. And
yet no one in this industry has tapped into that.
True.
So that's where the Weed Lady came in.
Okay, so Weed Lady is an online store that has a lot of cool merchandise.
Yes, so it is your high essentials. We also have 3 pre-rolls in a dispensary near you. Mm-hmm. If your dispensary does not have the Weed Lady pre-rolls, tell them they are tripping and they need to give me a call. It's easy. It's literally calltheweedlady.com. It's like you used to call the weed man, call the Weed Lady. The only difference is we don't have to flirt with you. We're not going to be like, what's up? You trying to smoke? Like, later. What's up? Like, I can get dinner. Like, bro, I just want an eighth. Please just drop off the weed. And so yeah, we've got the 3 pre-rolls. The Weed Lady is really a lifestyle brand that is mimicking my life, which is grind time, boss time, and break time. Like, no matter where I'm at in the day, I can normally attribute it to one of those categories. Like this podcast, I consider this boss time. Yes. I've stepped away from the grinding, and this is like, putting on the hat of showing up. And so there's the indica, sativa, and hybrid for those parts of your days. And then I was like, what else do we do? Like during break time, I like to light my candles. And so I have I have a daytime and a nighttime candle. I have a rose gold grinder. Oh, I thought I meant to bring it in my pocket. I've got this cool rose gold keychain where you can keep your joint. I go to the airports with it. I never leave the house without my joint. And then for those people that are the Weed Lady in your life, like the hoodie. Yeah. Because there's lots of us who are the Weed Ladies in our friend group. Absolutely, it's always one.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's beautiful. So I know you have like a bunch of other projects happening around after that. So tell us more.
And so then there's Can I Kick It, which
definitely talk about that. I've done a bunch of those events. Those are a lot of fun.
So then Can I Kick It came because I am an event coordinator by trade, or whatever you want to call that. So I partnered up with Eric Washington of Oakland. We actually went to high school together. Go St. Elizabeth. That's no longer there. And so we did that this year. We launched this year. We had 3 successful Can I Kick It's right up in the hills of Oakland, and the last one at the former Rosemary Jane. So I'm excited to get back to that. We've taken a break for the winter. We'll come back in May. And we are pivoting. That is going to be a cannabis entrepreneurial conference.
Excellent.
With a Can I Kick It mixer.
Nice.
So that people can come and get educated. Like, it's cool. Like, I want to kick it with y'all for sure, and I want to party for sure, but how can I add value to the community? And so we'll teach you. You'll be able to come and get in and listen to the panels on every license level, cultivation, distro, retail, but my favorite is, how do you get in the industry without a license?
Yes.
So this white labeling and this partnership. So I'll probably be leading that panel.
Excellent.
But yeah, so it'll be a conference sometime in May, and then we'll have the Can I Kick It mixer.
Yeah, I love the Can I Kick It events. And the ones that I went to, it was nice, beautiful location,
yes,
beautiful home in the hills. Really eclectic group, a mix of our community, older folks, younger folks, people of different economic backgrounds, and then a lot of cool brands kind of promoting their work. Had a DJ, we had food, and it was just a very relaxed atmosphere for people to kind of interact and learn about new products. And as someone who does a lot of product demos at a lot of places, they're often very stale, and they're rarely talking to our community. Or if they are talking to our community, it's very few people are interested in my particular product. And that, a lot of people were just curious about what we were doing there. And so I had a lot of amazing interactions with people, introducing folks to dabbing who had never tried dabbing before, showing off all these different products. And it was just, it felt really good just to be immersed in our culture and immersed in people who were passionately interested in what we were doing and wanted to learn more about it. And there's food and it was fun, and there's music and all that kind of stuff. So I really enjoyed those events. So I'm looking forward to the next one as well.
That came from my passion to pop bottles. Like, I like to dance. I like to have fun, but I'm also like, I don't enjoy liquor. So when I say I enjoy popping bottles, it's really, I just pay for the table because that's what you have to do.
Yes.
I do not enjoy liquor. And so wanting to create a space where people can sort of have that same day party vibe. And so we didn't do it for the first one, but for the second one, we did bottle service.
Oh, amazing.
Which was like, when I go to the club now, bottle service is starting off at like $800.
Wow.
It's crazy. Just for a seat. That's all I'm paying for. I think I did For the Culture, the old Mexicali Rose, for like $400 to buy a table. So we had ours at $250. They got a bottle of the Oakland can of beverage. They got food. They got their own reserved table, and we sold out of the VIP table. So I'm like, you can pop bottles that come with weed,
Absolutely.
So that's what I was trying to create. And it
dope.
worked out.
Oh,
Yeah. So it's like, it's Ladies Loving and Living. It's the Wee Lady Gift Shop, the Pre-Rolls, Can of Kick It. And then next up will be the podcast with Jason. Okay. So that's all the hats that I'm wearing.
Excellent. Well, there's more. Tell us about the podcast, but there's more because you have online courses.
They're coming. They're coming. Yeah. It's coming with the podcast. So the podcast and the courses will... Yes, those are going to be married, right? Okay,
so tell us about the podcast. Explain the podcast.
So the podcast with Jason Washington, I'm so excited because
Jason was our last guest for Plants Over Pills for folks who remember.
Yes, who was also formerly incarcerated, also private school kid like me. He went to St. Mary's.
Super passionate individual.
But we are approaching this industry sort of the same way right now. How does it make money?
Yeah.
And if it's not making money, what are we doing?
Absolutely.
And so the podcast is really to like highlight the what are we doing piece of this industry. A lot of this industry is heavy on branding, which you have to be. Like if you don't have a brand, you will fall. Like you've got to have a strong brand. But more than that, you have to have like fundamental business skills, and things need to make sense. And why are we like running in circles and making like $80-90? Like that doesn't make sense. And so during the podcast, we're like breaking down these numbers, like what does it really cost to bring a pre-roll to market? What does it really cost to run a distro center?
Excellent.
What does it really cost to run a retail? And then from that, the course, I'm so excited. And the course was really to benefit me. And then I was like, oh, this could really change the trajectory of this whole industry. Because currently retailers are operating, cannabis retailers, I don't know how they're operating. Like, let's be clear. Barely. Yeah. And I think it was like, you got a license, you got excited, you opened a store, you hired people, you staffed the store. But I don't think anybody went back to be like, how do you operate a retail store? Historically, how have retailers made money? Retail business is not new. Costco, Nordstrom's, Macy's, like they've been doing this since the beginning of time. I just read, there's a retailer's journal, the same way that there's a science, like there's a business of retailing that hasn't been learned in the dispensaries. And so currently this is where the course came from. Currently, Jason spends a lot of his time doing these store demos.
Yes.
He went to a store demo recently. He moved 55 units, Plants Over Pills, because he's a salesman.
Yeah, here's a play.
Like he's not
I'll
playing.
do a demo and move 1 unit maybe. So it's a hard slog. So 55 is insane.
Bro is not playing. Everybody who walks in the door, Plants. Have you heard of Plants Over Pills? Here's Plants Over Pills. It's better than that. Like he's got it, right? And then when he's not there, I think we checked the numbers. It moved like 2 units. Like, so what is the difference? Obviously, the store demos work. Costco does them every day. Yeah. Sephora does them every day. Nordstrom's, like the only difference is they're using the staff that they already have and they're moving the products that they've already bought.
Yes.
Where dispensaries are saying, hey, your products are sitting on the shelf. Can you come move them? Bro, I already sold it to you. I sold it to you at a discounted price, at a wholesale price that was very low because you guys are already lowballing us. I probably waited 60 days to get paid on the half a pound that you know what I'm saying? Like we're waiting 60 days to get paid $600, $800, which is crazy. And you want me to stop doing what I'm doing and come spend 4 or 5 hours in your store moving the product that I'm not going to get any additional money off the back end. And you might not speed up how you pay my invoice.
Yeah. Or order again.
That's crazy. It pissed me off as a brand. Mm-hmm. But then I step back and I'm like, as a retailer, how can I increase my ROI because I do think the retailers have a good heart. Like I want to put social equity on my shelves, which is why they purchase from us, but it's not moving because we don't have the same big brand budgets as the others, how do I move the product that I've already bought? Well, I've got about 4 or 5 bud tenders on duty right now that are acting as cashiers. Let me come in, identify what products are not moving, and let me train your staff on how to move those. Let me train your staff to work like Jason.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
The numbers are there. It's already proven. It works. You're just not rotating your staff. we can walk into a dispensary right now, and if a brand is not doing a demo, there's not a demo.
Correct.
If you walk into Costco, they're demoing bagels. Bagel Bite did not send an employee down to demo Bagel Bites. They pulled somebody and was like, you're going to stand here and introduce Bagel Bites to everybody. So that's the course. And it's not a course, it's consultation. I have consultation on sale for now. And my promise is to retailers that I can increase your sales. And it's not nothing that I made up. It's what retailers are already doing.
Absolutely. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm just excited to help. And then I'll jump back in with more flower product. But I can't keep putting flower product out there that may or may not sell because I can't be there every day.
Yeah, that's a big issue. It's a big issue. I have demos booked for that all next week.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's terrible.
And when you think about your time in your career, because I just got into a heated argument with somebody on Instagram. I don't do that often. But I had time that day because actually Tucky Blunt posted like terms got this industry effed up. And I was like, in addition to terms, this selling your weed twice has got us effed up. And I'm going back and forth with someone who was like, you're just lazy. You need to show up for brand awareness. That's why your 3 pre-rolls are sitting on the shelves. Honey, in my real world, my time is like $45 an hour. That's not even a lot. That's not a lot. But $45 an hour is what I earn in the real world. And so when you're asking me to sit down for these 5 hours, now you're asking me to put another $250 into this. And I'm not getting no return on that. Brand awareness happens here. Like I'm creating brand awareness. I'm doing lots of other things. My work ethic is unmatched. But standing in your store, giving you another $250 of my time, I don't have that. Of it. And I don't want you to have it either. So when you're in there, you need to tell them like, yo, Evelyn will help you figure out how to move these units, and we don't even got to be here.
No, we waste so much time doing that, and there's so many things to be doing and worrying about and chasing after that. Sitting in a corner of a store for 3 hours, especially if the store kind of just puts you deep in the corner, so you're not actually anywhere near where people are coming and going. So you're standing in the corner for hours. I mean, I treat them as 3-hour staff trainings. I'll go around and kind of mess with the staff and all that. Right. But that's not really, I mean, it's not a productive use of time when I really add up what's going on throughout the week. So.
And I'm giving out, when I do the store demos, I'm coming in there and saying, if you buy all 3 pre-rolls, you get a free piece of merch. Right? So, and I did that for a while, and it didn't matter if it was like, I'd bring like 5 hoodies. So whatever you want off the table, if you bought all 3. I was in Barbary Coast. Shout out to them because it's a beautiful location. So this is like no shade.
Great lounge, all that.
Great lounge. I had not checked what they priced my pre-rolls at. So I've convinced a few people to go buy all 3. They priced them at, I think, $17 a pop. $17 for a pre-roll. So $20, $40, $60 for 3 pre-rolls plus taxes.
Might as well get an eighth.
You might as well get an eighth. And I sold it to you for $4.50.
Yeah.
And I'm in here giving, and then on top of that, go ahead and add the cost of the hoodie, the $20 cost of the hoodie, and then the cost of my time. Yeah. That is backwards ass hustling. Yeah. I refuse. I'm sorry.
No, it's true.
It's cute. True. Yeah. It's good for the gram, but it's backwards hustling.
Absolutely.
All of it. MJB is backwards hustling.
Yeah.
Like it's backwards.
Absolutely. I do enjoy going to Vegas for the food.
Yeah.
But with the rest of it, it's not good.
And the bottle popping.
Yeah, there's that. So you're really all over the place right now.
Yeah. I like to say it's not all over the place because it's all lining up for me now in the terms of, because this is not my first rodeo as an entrepreneur. When I first came home, I started a mobile detailing company. Like I got a van, I put all the equipment in, I put about $4,000. I got a good van for $1,200, generator, pressure washer. I'm like 125 pounds and I'm out here with this big ass van washing cars. So the pandemic shut that down. Actually, somebody bipped the van, stole all the equipment.
Imagine that, bipping in Oakland. Who'd have thunk?
Who would have thunk? Like, I'm like, we're shut down. Like,
bipping is breaking into cars for everyone not from the town and wherever the hell you're from.
Wherever you are, breaking into people's property. I think, like, I looked up what BIP is.
Oh God,
it's like,
it never occurred to me that was an acronym.
Yeah, I think it's an acronym. Or maybe the internet made up an acronym, because I doubt if they did.
Yeah, that's shocking. But so obviously you have a heavy entrepreneurial spirit.
Yes.
Where does that come from? Like, who in your family instilled that in you?
I would say my grandfather is my only visual representation. Well, not really. Like, my mom, this is about to get funny. So growing up, my mom she managed strippers, female strippers. Mm-hmm. So I grew up in a house that like often had like stripper parties, which is probably why I like to pop bottles.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when I went to Loyola Marymount Entrepreneurship School, you had to like pitch your idea, like. And so mine has always been a strip club. I said I would have a strip club by the time I'm 40. 40 is around the corner. I don't think it's going to happen. But so I did see my mom hustling at a really young age. But I wasn't privileged enough to see my grandfather like live out his working years. How old was I? I was maybe like 3 or 4 when he passed. But it lingered so that when I got into the 5th grade and needed a tutor, we could call his estate manager. And because I was the beneficiary, every year I got to see like all of the properties he owned and what they were paying out and what the investments were doing. And I always feel, guilty, because there's 3 of us, me, my brother, and my cousin, who were the beneficiaries. And I always feel guilty that we dried it out. And so my goal is to replenish it. Because he had tree farms. My last tuition payments came from selling off the last piece of property, which was a tree farm in Oregon. Mm-hmm. I would have loved to have that tree farm today,
Yeah.
I just bought a Christmas tree right now for $160, and so
that's the real growing. Like, forget the cannabis, growing Christmas trees,
bro. He had a tree farm, and we cashed it in to pay for my schooling, and it sounded good, like a good idea then, because I was, going to school. But now it's like, what were you thinking? Like, get a loan, go figure it out, but keep the farm. And so I just really want to replenish all of that, and I know it's in, like, I've got a picture of Grandpa up there. I've got at my desk, like, that's my LaChapelle corner, Oh,
that's excellent. I think so many of us, when we talk to folks who are either activists or entrepreneurs about where it comes from, it's often a grandparent. Mm-hmm. I think that's really beautiful, that in the family. I
don't know why the kids don't catch on.
Yeah,
like, it like skips,
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of that, and I think also, like, we listen to our parents' instruction, but we follow the lead of our grandparents a little bit more, because they're not day to day, like, put your shoes face on.
Right,
it's like, I want to
right.
aspire to this thing, not realizing that your parents are aspiring to that thing too, and have been showing you that same way.
Right.
But it's easier to kind of see with that distance, I really feel like my grandparents like taught me a lot just by example and words, but they were really the same words that my mom was teaching me, but I just received it so much differently from my grandparents. It's really important.
Right, yeah. So
it's amazing. So I often ask folks, in not the most eloquent way, how has your ethnic background impacted what you're doing in business and how you perceive the world around you?
Yes, Black. First of all, let's just identify that. I often have to identify myself. It has shaped everything. Like, Oakland shaped me, right? Then I am like Black Panther in my heart, like all the way Huey P. Newton. When it's time, he'll be tattooed. So like I'm like militant in that. Then my first Black history class in college. Like, I don't think you should have to wait to college to learn some history, but that was that. And so it just like opened my eyes to the broader picture of what it means to be Black in this country. The word that I was going to use. So pretty like heavy on the pro-Black. And so it has shaped me, because in an industry that was really built on the back of the legacy operators, Me being grandfathered into this legacy operators, not on purpose, clearly on accident, but I was a part of it. Actually, my co-defendants, they have their own brand, 40 Tons.
Excellent.
And so you guys moved 40 tons of weed, but the money came through my account. So I'm like certified. And so knowing that this industry was built on our backs, and then knowing that this industry was only prohibited to incarcerate Black and brown people, like I didn't know that going into trial. I learned that coming home. Like, oh no, when they wrote these laws, it was with one intent,
absolutely,
to incarcerate Black and brown people. And so it is shaping me because I'm showing up unapologetically Black girl. Like I want to make sure that my hair is braided. Like I just want, and that's why I had to part from some of these organizations, because the whitewashing of cannabis is crazy. Yeah. The rebranding, the fact that it's called cannabis and not weed is weird. So what was this, August, not this last, what year are we in, 2023? So August 2021, I think. Maybe 22, the years are flying. I did a billboard campaign in Oakland. I put up 6 billboards that said weed is not a crime. And I specifically put them up in East Oakland, because how is cannabis legal over here in Temescal? And then when you ride through the East, we're still being criminalized for it. Absolutely. And I got a lot of backlash. Like they put the billboards up, then they took them down, and then they put them in like some scarce whatever, just because of the word. Like it's become the slogan, like weed is not a crime, and owning that word weed, because I don't want to rebrand it, and I don't want to conform, and I don't think we should have to.
Yeah, that's actually a major issue. I think people like outside of our community don't really realize it, that we had traditional words for cannabis for years, and then when the industry came up to the way we know it, there was this push to, I guess, normalize it, or just take it out of the colloquial context and put it into something a little bit more formal, start using it, calling it cannabis. But then it started demonizing people who still called it weed or marijuana, people who've been growing up using it, their parents use it, their grandparents use it. It's been in their community and culture for decades, and now suddenly you're telling them they need to refer to it as something different, even though you just started using it yourself. You don't really have that cultural connection to it. They've decided for us, we need to change the name of it because the name's inappropriate, and that has created a backlash between different communities and how they relate to the plant.
There are kids now. I had someone that I worked with, a designer that I worked with. Her daughter knew that she worked in cannabis, was okay with it. She was like 17. She was like a junior in high school, and then found out that cannabis was weed, and was really upset. And it's how could you? And so that what struck me, and I think this was even before the Weed Lady was created, and I knew I would stick with the word weed, was I don't know if you're familiar with Dante West. He also served, I think, 4 years out in Kansas. And right at his release, he fought for his own release. Kansas, whatever that city was, the newspaper came out. And in the crime section, it was a picture of Dante West, who had just won in his charges against marijuana. The DA was definitely going to be recharging him and coming back after it. Like it was sad. Flipped a couple pages to the business section. They had just opened their first cannabis dispensary. And I'm like, as the editor of this newspaper, you didn't even catch at least say that he's being charged with cannabis then. Yeah, call it the same thing. Call it the same thing. And so when we call it different things, it makes it okay for some people and bad for other people. Absolutely. So I'm the weed lady. And I still call the weed man. Yeah, I love it. So I guess what's in the near future? I know the podcast is coming, but it seems like you have so many irons in the fire. Or do you have other things you're percolating on? No, that is, I am stopping right there. Excellent. Let me see. Is there anything else that I'm thinking about doing? I really don't think so. That's crazy because I do normally have something that's far-fetched. I don't have anything.
We got a lot cooking now.
I got a lot of cooking.
Yeah.
So what's next is for sure the Cannabis Entrepreneur Conference in Oakland. We'll do that and invite everyone out. And then the podcast.
Excellent. I'm super looking forward to that. It's going to be an amazing podcast. Both you and Jason have strong personalities. I love listening to you guys talk, so I'm super excited about seeing that. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming through today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
It's an honor to talk to you. Honor to just figure out all the different things you're working on. Rep your brand.
Yes, calltheweedlady.com.
Calltheweedlady.com.
On Instagram, it's 87 months _the Weed Lady.
Excellent. Any other ways we can support you?
Ladieslovingandliving.org. You can absolutely donate to the 3 programs. It has been, I won't say a struggle finding the funding, but most of my projects are self-funded. And we're running out of cash. These pockets are running out of cash. So please donate to ladieslovingandliving.org. Shop calltheweedlady.com. It's the #1 gift shop for the weed lady in your life. So Christmas, birthdays, Valentine's is coming up. Get her a pack and some weed lady merch.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank
It's great
you.
having you. Talk to you again soon.
Thank you. Hey. Killed it.